Okay, let's get started. This is a meeting of the Community Preservation Act. We're late starting because we have to wait for a quorum. So we're going to start right in on acceptance, on item 1, acceptance of minutes from, I have April 4th, but it's actually April 3rd. For some reason, the original minutes had April 4th on them, so, but it's at April 3rd. I had some corrections. I don't know if they're still there. If I have,
Tough crew to find.
Okay.
Oh, you're here. Wow, now we have more than, you can get a chair over there.
Okay, so in the second paragraph, under total cost for the project, did you take out that, I think it was a subtraction sign between the 317,000 and 20%? There was a.
It's just a dash. Do
Oh.
you want it to be something else?
Yeah,
instead?
that looks like it's a minus.
I can make it a comma.
Yeah, that would be better. Okay, and then nothing, oh yes.
Mike, how can we move for you to fit in?
Just wanted to share, so I don't have to-
Is that going to work for you, Scott?
Yeah, it'll work. Well, you're gonna go, Mike.
Okay, so it's,
Share it.
it's there, the last sentence on this page 2. The first paragraph, the second to the last line, the HRA, that's the Hoyok Redevelopment Authority, they're not purchasing. They're not purchasing a vacant lot. It's gonna be just part of the city. It's gonna be, they're gonna make it part of that parcel, but they're not purchasing it. So I don't know what word you wanna use instead. Yeah.
Which paragraph?
The first paragraph, second to the last line, if the HRA will be providing the $100,000, it must be dollar, value property as well as purchasing. They're not purchasing a vacant lot next to the building.
Combining it with?
Combining, that's a good word, yes. Okay, and then on the last page, the second to the last paragraph, it's the last line. If he plans not to be reinstated this summer for a second term, then CPC will need a new treasurer and the city council, not CPC, will need to follow the process. Okay, that's my corrections. Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay.
Do the motion, sorry.
Item 2, we don't have to go into because that,
I think it was Kip who did the motion.
okay, you took out the treasurer's thing already? Okay. Item 2, meet with Mike Moriarty
Very good, thank you.
regarding 43 Canal Street.
Well, thank you for an opportunity to provide some more clarification. As for Mike, prepared a package with the quotes as had been requested. When I last saw you, I had a quote. I've now procured 3 quotes for the masonry work, and in fact, the third one was the charm. It came in at a much better price than we had previously seen, but with a couple of caveats. So the prices for the previous ones were $22,500 and $24,500, and I provided you copies of those. This one from Rich Cooper, and I am actually always pleased when I'm able to give the business to a Hoyok business based on Beach Street. This, and by the way, there's small notes on here that do the totaling, which was not provided in here. But the total cost is $12,732, which is a significant difference. And obviously, he's getting the work. Plus, we've worked with him before. We know we know that he's very reliable and does good work. But there are some things about the scope of work that I do need to point out about this. I spoke with him today. He recommends that the building be power washed before they begin the repair work. This obviously removes any loose items that may not have been noticed and makes it a little bit cleaner for adhesion and so forth. However, while it was in the other 2 quotes, it was not in his quote. checking within staff. We have a power washer, we have staff who knows how to use it, so we can do that piece in-house at a, nominal cost. And in addition to that, as I had mentioned with the other quotes, everybody who gave me a quote did a walk around of the building to take a look at what's there now. Because we don't actually have like exterior design renderings or final work, I have to negotiate with whoever I hire, in this case Rich, where we're going to place lighting, where we're going to place the power source for the lighting, anticipate where signage would go, and there may be some additional prep work that's involved with some of that. You don't want to have the entire wall done and then start destroying the work after it's finished. You always want to plan that stuff up front. Because of that, we would anticipate a small change order, no more than 15% of the quoted price seems right to us. That's also always negotiable. And what's also negotiable as well is we can scale some of the things we'd like to do back if it's starting to make the cost crazy. So we have a lot of control over that stuff. Bottom line is, with the ancillary work, we are looking $12,732 plus an estimated $3,000 on a potential change order, plus the power washing, and again that's in the hundreds, not the thousands. It should be less than that actually. I'm always going to want to give a provision somewhat on the high side. The painting services, none of these quotes provide painting after the work is done, and you do need to paint. I was surprised the quotes are actually almost twice what we had anticipated seeing when we did our estimation in-house, and we've only got 2 quotes so far. We're going to continue to put this out to bid and see if we can't do a little bit better going forward. But right now, the best quote of the 2, there's 3 in front of you, but 2 of them are from the same source. So the 2 from Mr. Calderon, again, someone we've worked with before that we have a great deal of confidence in, we know his professional qualifications. He gives one where he would provide the paint materials and a lift rental at $15,000, and a separate one where we would provide those things at $10,000, and we know we can provide those things for much less than $5,000, so that's the route we would go. We provide him with the paint. And the third quote falls in the middle of those 2, and again, good quote, reputable business. We would go with the lowest dollar on that one, but we're going to continue to shop because we can find another reputable vendor that's even less expensive. That would be the route we go in. In the cover letter, I just provide all of these numbers, and so if I add it up, it is just under $32,000. The reality is, if I have an allocation of that amount, I actually do not expect I would expend the full amount on this scope of work. So, any questions I can answer for you on that, I'm very happy to. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, so the power washing, you've got it down for, with some other stuff, an additional $3,000, that's included in the quote?
That's including the 2 quotes we didn't do, but you won't see it in the quote from Rick Mason that we would accept. So we have to anticipate providing that for him. Unless you're seeing it, I didn't.
Mr.
Cooper, rather.
Well, the power,
Calderon.
Oh, yeah, so Calderon, so the painter?
Right.
I actually have to talk to those guys because I'm not sure they clearly understood that this is going to happen right after we do a repaired stucco work. I don't know why they're still going to need to do power washing after a new administration.
Right.
Got to talk to them about that, see if I can't get a little concession if they don't have to. But there is some language in that Zeltone one that talks about how that's helpful for adhesion of the paint, make it more long-lasting. I will defer to their knowledge and expertise on that. If it has to happen twice, it does.
Maybe he wants to do his work up front before the painting.
Well, that's the one thing I've got to clarify. If it's only going to happen once, we're going to get it done, because obviously the stucco mason is going to do the work first. But I think there may be a possibility that they're going to say, we still want to do power washing after it's done. And I'll follow their advice and listen to them and talk to other pros in the field.
Okay, and you understand that you're going to do the work and you're going to give us the...
Absolutely. I'm anticipating this as a reimbursement,
Yes.
or if you prefer, we would submit the invoices as we prepare to pay them so you can review and raise any questions. But yeah, we're not looking for a check up front at all. We have the means to do this job. What this does for us that's really important about operating this club is this relieves us of one financial burden as we focus on providing more programming and growing a nascent organization for the neighborhood. That's where we really want to be putting the resources that our own company has for the property. So you're helping us make that possible with this.
Okay.
So based on the quote, it could come out to be a little more than 21,000?
I would say based on both quotes right now, you can't ignore the other roughly $8,000 I'm talking about. So I think it's going to come in right around 30, give or take. In other words, you got two quotes, but you also have my statement to you that there are 3,000 of ancillary costs when we do the mason work, give or take, and there's $5,000 of ancillary costs, and it will be lower actually when we deal with the painter. You know, it's not necessarily going to be those numbers. I estimated what I thought was the outside highest number, but there's going to be additional costs.
Oh, so it's the 10,000 plus the 3,000 and the 12,732.
The 10 plus the 5. So remember, we had one quote that said $15,000 if they provided all that stuff. We just know we'll save on that $5,000 if we do it ourselves.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I just didn't know what you meant by change order. You anticipated change order as we determine the location of lighting?
Yeah, that's a very common development term. What happens is you will make a contract with a provider, and you'll find out after you start the work that there's going to have to be a change in some of the work that happens, and they got to get paid for that.
Oh.
And so it's an addendum to the contract, if you would, but we use the term change order in the field.
As long as it doesn't go over what we've already.
We eat it if it does.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. You're gonna have a cap, we're gonna recognize that cap. It's our job to budget, to maintain our budget. That's development work.
And you're gonna make best efforts to keep it as low as possible, so that if it's 30,000, you're not gonna get 32, you're gonna get, the true invoices are for 30,000, you're gonna get reimbursed for $30,000.
Absolutely.
And the two stays in the CPA.
Yeah, and we actually have a fiscal policy and procurement manual in-house. You know, we deal with a lot of federal grants, and of course, they worry about that same sort of thing. We follow that very closely, and that's why we're triple bidding some of this. The stucco work is at a number where we would triple bid anyway. The painting work is actually at a number where we might go with one or two quotes if we thought they were right in-house. I don't think they're right, so then we keep shopping.
And Elaine, I think you brought up last time that you had questions about the lighting fixtures, the conduits.
Well, it wasn't me, but I think I understood that you were gonna, when they do the stucco, you're gonna have them leave the place where the lighting's gonna go.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So the change is simply, there may be some more work in preparation, and there's some grouting that sometimes needs to happen. And so we don't know the exact product we're going to use yet. The mason's going to want to know that. And what I anticipate are those sort of metallic gooseneck lights that are actually sort of reminiscent of the Depression era. And we're just going to look at, you know, what the right dosage is for the right kind of lighting there, and to just make the building sort of pop and look attractive. But we're not putting that on this because we're not replicating anything historic. And I just thought that would muddy the waters more than we should. We'll buy our own lighting fixtures. Just it's going to cost the mason a little bit extra to prepare it, to put those there. That's not his quote.
Exactly.
But you were requesting, you know, part of the request is for the light fixtures under the historic category.
To remind you, where we started when I did my initial letter of intent was at $75,000. Because if I could get that amount of money, I could do a lot more activity in the building. I learned very quickly that some of the things I'd like to do, like internet installation, which by the way we have done with some fundraising since that time, can't be done with the CPA because it's got no connection to historic anything, and we checked the historic preservation box. That's why my initial grant request was for $55,000. The next thing I had not anticipated was, all right, what I really would love to have is a professional architect to give us a long-term strategic plan for what this building inside and out is going to look like. It's been made clear. That also doesn't work with CPA. So I'll let that go too, no problem. But the ask I made the last time I was here was, if I can't have the architect, there are some other worthwhile things I could do that would make the building nicer and that I'm ultimately, so one thing I'm ultimately going to do, CPA money or not, is I've got to have some accessibility for this place. Right now, I can do short-term accessibility from the back, and if you talk to advocates for the disabled, they don't like that. It's not, people don't want to be relegated to the back door, and I appreciate that fully. But right now, that's what's feasible. In the long term, I'd like to ramp on the front side of the building very much. The way the building's configured, that's very doable. But I'd really have to change the threshold of the building. That entryway would not easily host a platform where somebody can turn and access without widening the door. And if I modernize the threshold, I could also use electronic openings and other things that maximize the accessibility. But as I described that to you, to hear cash registers just ringing every step of the way, I couldn't afford to do that with the sort of money I asked for, so I'm not asking for it at this time. I did suggest, all right, if you can't have an architect, can you let me do some accessibility? Because I looked at the statute, it's an option. You have that option if you'd like. If it's not entirely clear, if it's not fully formulated enough, I understand and respect that completely, and I think you've got to be good stewards of the resources you've got. But I did come in last time saying, hey, if I ask for 55 and I can't have an architect, can I maybe do some accessibility? Could we look at putting a couple of dormers to replicate what the exterior looked like over most of its life? And they would be faux dormers. We can do two because we can do the carpentry in-house, and it's just a small roofing job to get something like that up there. And that's why we thought we believe we could do those for about 5,000 each, 10 total. So I suggested that. We could do some interpretive signage on the exterior if that's acceptable to you. You know, in other words, if you wanted to give me an additional $23,000 on terms that are acceptable to the committee, I'd happily accept it and I'd happily do very nice work. But if that is too vague and not fully formulated enough, I appreciate that. And I sit on boards. I understand the situation you've got. But I think this is formulated, and so that's,
Right.
you know.
That was our discussion, is that the other things, you know, if you get more detail and information we can do it next year or something.
Yeah.
We can come back next year for that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for Mike? Okay.
I will leave you to deliberate without me staring down your necks. I'll watch you home.
All right,
Thanks.
yeah, all right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
coming in, Mike.
You're welcome.
And waiting.
Oh, no trouble.
Sorry about
Take
that.
care.
Okay. All right. Okay, so are we ready to vote?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure. Mike, you want to put your stuff up here?
He had said that the CPC supporting capital improvements to the property allows the organization to move those monies into programming. I can't remember what the purpose of the building is or what the programming would be.
Oh, it's a community.
It's a community center that should eventually be run by the neighborhood, that's run by a community.
They're probably going to have internet, you know, you can go use
They already have-
computers,
they have
and I mean,
internet now, so
yeah,
they're
I
working
mean,
on
you know,
trying to, like,
computer room,
Yeah.
something.
Run after-school programming and like for the kids in the community in the flats.
I just want to mention that the interpretive signage, I don't think
Yeah.
that that's
No.
allowable, and the light fixtures, if they're not part of the historic facade, don't seem like they're allowable either. I have the original budget if anybody wants to look.
Well, I think he just stated that they were gonna buy their own light fixtures.
But aren't we,
So
isn't
the
the only thing
signage is out.
isn't the only thing we're agreeing to right now is painting and stucco?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, who cares about this?
I'll make correction.
Well, I just don't know if everyone's up to date, so.
Second. What,
Wait,
how
no,
much?
Kip,
32,000.
yeah,
Why 32,000?
because that's what the
Oh,
estimate is.
That's the cap.
Here's the
That's what his
three things,
estimate is.
and then-
at this
And
although his estimate, you could give less than that, it's up to you.
I would
I
just do
mean-
based on whatever the project costs at the end of the invoice, is no more than $32,000.
Yeah, well, that's,
Which is the agreement.
yes, that's
right there.
right.
And how much is left in?
Because he has to submit those invoices for
Yeah, he
reimbursement.
wouldn't get.
That was
full-
my question about.
If he spends under, he won't get.
He's not gonna get the full 32,000.
So,
He has
wait a minute, we have,
Stucco
I
repair.
don't know if everybody heard that Kip made a motion and Andrew seconded, so now we're under discussion. Okay, yes.
All right, he's got, for stucco repair, he's got a low estimate of 25,000.
No,
No,
12,000.
12.
12 plus 3.
12,732, right?
Yeah,
12 plus 3,000 for change order.
For change order, that's 15,732.
Right.
10,000, right? Yeah.
Well, he said maybe, he's not sure because he only got 2. He might get a
Well,
third.
let's say the whole thing was 15,
It's
right?
between 10 and 15, yeah.
Right?
Right. So that's 30. So
That's
we're
30.
talking 2,000 that, you
and I
know.
think, my recollection was that was anticipated change orders to accommodate, not to buy lighting fixtures, but to accommodate
The-
installation of conduits and plates in preparation for the lighting.
Pretty much to just cut the hole in so that they can put the light.
But I don't know if that's not part of the historical.
But
But it's so, they
No,
don't,
but
so
when he's doing the stucco, you
Yeah.
have to
Right.
leave a space.
as part of the stucco rebuild,
right, you wouldn't want to do it,
yeah, so as part of the stucco rebuild, they're not charging him to put the holes in for the thing, that's a separate cost. So he's trying to put, I guess, that, including that in there.
Right, and I
Okay,
think that's,
I got it.
Okay, anybody else on the discussion? Okay, all in favor? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, unanimous. It's up to
Okay.
6 of us that
So
are
that's
here.
for the 32,000?
That's for the 32,000.
So when is the next city council meeting? It's always on, what, the second?
First and third Tuesday.
So it'll be June, there's 2nd, 3rd, 4th? June 1st is a Saturday?
June 4th. June 4th.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll write something up.
I'll try to get it done on the floor.
Yeah,
Well, my record's pretty good
Yeah, you've
so
been
far.
pretty good.
I know that.
When you do this, do you usually distribute what I send to the other members, or do you just share?
I tried to put a copy on everybody's desk. I ran out of ink the last time, so.
Okay.
they
You
have-
had to do it in
they
your own?
have- Yeah.
You didn't do it in the city clerk's office, that's part of your,
No,
you can
okay.
do that?
We're on TV, no comment.
Huh?
No comment.
No comment.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's what we used to do when I was a city councilor. We made copies of that. Okay, and we gave them, the TPA gave them a box of paper,
When is the meeting?
full box of paper. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Okay, just FYI. All right, are we ready to move on to the written, the conditions? Does everybody have a copy of the conditions?
Recommendations, CPC recommendations to city council.
We're missing one.
That's what you call your document that you give, that's all the information on it.
And the one I did for Mike
Yeah,
to
there we
share
go.
are the recommendations.
did you guys want to?
Yes, I got that.
Yeah, I copied these on the internet. Is that how you?
Plus, I think we gave you a set.
I think is that a different set?
I don't think so, I think it's, Amy, there's no changes between what you sent us electronically and this hard copy.
The only change is that I put the 123 Pine Street into that chart
Here.
format.
Uh-huh. And
And
what-
I gave you. a
Because
set, the new
what
set
you
that
saw
gave
before
us. I
was
gave
the
you a set.
recommendation
I
to
brought
city
this in.
council.
No, but we gave you a set with the agenda and everything.
No,
You
I
did?
don't think so. We
No?
were out by
Is that
then.
okay?
Oh.
Where is it?
We're doing
Yeah,
that?
we- no. But the only difference is
I
this has
thought
been
that we
added
did.
in.
Sorry.
This one.
What-
There's an agenda right here.
Oh, you
Yeah, not
did them
that.
all, I see, you did them all separate.
I gave them a copy.
So this, what is this? Is this the latest?
This is the same thing that you have, except there's
Yeah,
an
just
additional
one page.
123 Pine Street. That's an additional page.
So no changes, like the first one is Gloutak, right? So that
Yes.
should be identical to what you have.
Mosquito
Yes.
park.
So when we get to the Pine Street one,
So,
yeah.
Or you have a 123 Pine Street.
Oh,
yeah, I got this off the internet. Is this the same thing?
I guess so.
If you hold it up, I'll tell you if it's the latest, if it's in the chart form. Yeah, that's the one that,
That's the one you guys are talking about
if that
right now?
says, yeah, I think that's the one that that's up to
It was
date.
on email, yes. Email to
So you
us.
have no.
Okay, we're all set then. So, Amy, do you want to go over the conditions in terms, see if there's any additional things or changes?
Okay,
Go
well,
one by one.
all right, we have a lot to go
We'll
through.
vote each one, right?
What?
Will we vote each one?
Will you vote each one?
No, we're not voting on these things. We're just gonna make changes or, we're just-
Yeah. This will be for the contract with the city solicitor, because she needs to know what the committee's requiring on the contract.
Mhm.
So, yeah, for the first one, actually, this was an agenda item for 5, but since that's the Gloutak is the first one, I just want to mention, I just want to get everybody up to date that I'm at the point where I think that I'll be able to put in the requisition order for the purchase of the land by the city, which is like $156,500, because there was a $500 deposit put down. Because Andrew of the Conservation Commission has gotten it together with, all the parties to get an extension of the purchase and sale, so it's for June 7th now, because we're now past the original purchase and sale date. And also it's been signed over by the mayor to the city from, I guess from Kestrel to the city, so the purchase and sale is for the city of Holyoke. And then, so the next thing I think is the requisition order. I'm just trying to consult with the auditor to see if there's anything more I need to know. But I've already started working on a requisition order for the sale, because that will serve as an invoice, those documents.
Okay,
Because this is different, in this case, we need the check cut before, that serves as the invoice.
right. Now, what about the taxes that they owe? How does that work?
There's been a lot of emails back and forth I'd have to go through. It's very complicated, but I'm sure that I think the way that it's going to work out is that they'll hold the check until they get, it'll be, I guess they're just going to exchange at the same
Okay.
moment.
Okay.
We'll give you
Okay.
this check and now you
just
at the
take
same
their money.
time you pay the taxes.
Okay.
I think that's
All right.
how it's going to work out, yeah.
Okay.
There's a difference.
And also where it says 50 point, sorry, what?
No, I said I would just pay the difference.
Yeah, so where it says 51.5 acres in the first column, I think it's slightly more, just so you know, it's like 51.7 or something like that. So it is an even better deal for the city, we're getting a little bit more. Because they did this new survey and that's what it came up.
Okay, that's fine.
So I don't know if everybody could just sort of read this over and see what you think should be included or it should be crossed out or.
It doesn't say anything in here about the public, making sure that the public always has access to that.
Uh-huh, okay, that's a
Yeah,
good one.
there's 2 of them there.
So that would be a condition, right? Yeah.
Public, I wonder if that's in the conservation restriction though, that Kestrel Trust will own. It's conservation land, so wouldn't that automatically be accessible to
Let's put it just
I
in
would
case.
just want, yeah.
public
Always has
access
access.
to land, okay? Perpetual.
Other than that, that was my big,
And how long should they display a CPA sign?
Just put a stone.
I would say, until it falls apart. Yeah, until it falls apart and they can't use it anymore.
Well-
There's places in other cities, towns that you can tell.
Just
they can
be
put
silent at
Okay,
the
so
time, just say
permanent.
they have to put a sign.
it.
Yeah, they have to put.
I think that the way that we were talking about this before is that they're gonna have to, like, each of these projects will pay for the sign, but I'll have to approve of it, so there's some kind of, you know, uniformity to all the signs.
Okay.
Okay.
So do you-
Although, I don't know, a permanent sign though is gonna be more expensive.
You don't have to say permanent, just tell them they have to put a sign.
Okay,
And it has to be sturdy, you know, can't be something that's gonna fall apart
We
in
could put one
6 months.
They could put one that's similar to the ones that they already have at the parks though.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Just to
well,
match
the
the
thing is, I think for the
schematics.
other projects, it's just gonna be a temporary sign. So you're saying for this one, it should be a permanent one?
You don't have to use the word permanent, just, you know, something that's going to be long-lasting and,
Little green sign that they got.
Yeah,
And
Hadley
then-
has them. It says this land has been reserved by
And, you know,
ZBA.
Kestrel's gonna keep them up because they like having their name out there, you know,
Okay,
they're gonna have,
maybe Kestrel will,
yeah, they're
I
not.
mean, you might even be able to create just that one, because they just put a whole bunch of new signs up in all the parks. And they got the little, like Ely Park has a new one, it's a small little green sign that says Ely Park. You could probably do the same thing for every single one that you put up, like the Boys and Girls Club could have one attached to the fence. This is by CPA money, boom. And the same thing across the board, wherever you do any improvements.
I don't know,
what
I
kind of
haven't seen
sign is
it.
that again?
When
Do
you
you
look
know
at
who
like
makes it?
Springdale,
Metal?
it's a metal pole,
Do
and
you
it's
know
like a
who makes it?
city.
They've got them all over the place.
Yeah,
like,
the
all
city-
every park just went
If you
down.
know any information about like who I would contact, like who the
I'll
vendor is.
ask Parks and Rec.
Yeah, Parks and Rec would
DPW.
know. Yeah, right,
Terry's
of
on the
course,
Bible.
yes, yes.
Oh, Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, yeah, yeah.
Just to keep it uniform with everything else in the city.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So then the deadline for each phase, this one's pretty simple.
So, can I just suggest maybe we add some time to that in case there's, you know, there's some hiccup in the closing? I mean, we don't care if they do it 30 days later than, May
For which?
30th.
You mean the closing?
yes.
Well, it's already been extended to June 7th.
Right, but they get extended sometimes multiple
Well, I think
times.
they're the ones who want it done fast
I know, but
because of a problem with.
Yeah, but rather than stick ourselves with a hard date on here, just.
That we then have to deal with.
Okay, so which date are we talking about?
Well, maybe,
May 30,
Oh, so take away June 30th?
May 30.
Yeah, just.
What do you want the date to be?
no date, I mean,
And well, it's, yeah, I guess why are we?
Well, I think we should
Well,
have
we don't
some
want it to
date.
extend for years, right?
oh,
So,
no.
so,
They extend for another year, then you want another year of property tax, that'll
right.
Why not just say August or something?
Yeah.
How about that?
Okay, sure,
August 30th, 2019.
Yeah.
31st, because there's 31 days now.
And yeah, the deadline for closing is obviously changed because right now it's supposed to be June 7th.
Let's think about this. When does the tax bills
That'll be
run
first
from
quarter.
July 1st?
Yes.
New fiscal year in July.
So maybe we should do
So in other
that
words, it
date,
has to
say
be
like
before
the
July.
fiscal
June
year.
30th.
June 30th.
That's what we had.
No, we had May 30th.
No, it says according to this, June
According-
30th.
I saw
Mike
that.
is just saying
Right below
because
that
of the
deadline to
Yeah,
close
I was
May
looking at the same thing
31st.
too.
Oh, well, but if,
Yeah.
they, you know, that kind of precedes it, so I mean, yeah, that's.
Well, you should cross
Yeah,
out,
okay, don't put deadline for closing, you know, don't, May 22nd is the expected closing.
well, no, it's now June 7th, so we'll say
Or June 7th
expected.
is expected closing, and then June
June 7th.
30th will be the closing and completion by June 30th.
I thought we said August.
Well, we did, but we changed it to the fiscal year, June 30th. So that we don't have to worry about
Okay,
it.
so what I
on
had
tax.
was right then, June 30th.
No, because we had May 31st.
No, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No, it's what I'm talking about though.
Yeah.
It says deadline for closing,
You're
May
both
31st.
talking
I'm
the-
suggesting
you're-
we make that June 30th. Be consistent with the two dates. So there's no confusion.
But it's already been changed to June 7th.
On the top with the bold.
So
Yeah,
right
we
above
just said
that,
expected closing June 7th.
yeah, so
And now
we're
we're,
both saying the same thing, but it's there already,
okay, and then we're saying closing completion June 30th, 2019.
yes.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, Kim? Yeah.
Okay, what about invoices? Let's see. I already talked about that.
What other invoices are there?
Well, I already talked about that. This is what I learned from Zaida at the Department of, for community housing or whatever. They said they get an invoice that includes a cover letter with an outline of the request and documentation, as well as copies of checks and receipts. But she said to check with the auditor, and I did, and the auditor, I guess because she's new, is not really sure. So just wondering what they should submit.
Best practices.
For what, the invoices?
Yeah, for each time they get paid, and this really goes for all of the,
For each time they get paid, that.
oh, well, okay, not for this, in this case it's different.
Yeah,
This
right,
is-
there's
this
no,
is-
yeah.
Yeah, you're right, in this case it's different.
Okay.
It's just, well, they are gonna get other, there are gonna be other
There's
charges.
separate payments.
There
yes.
are other charges because Kestrel is the project
Yeah,
manager,
right,
they have
right.
other costs, so.
But
what-
it's all done at one time, it's not
No.
gonna be, they're not
The
gonna,
other ones, they will have to submit an invoice for.
they're not gonna be ready to do this at the closing and get this all paid and done.
And I'm not necessarily,
No.
because the other ones, I don't know, depends on when they pay for it and they then send an invoice. So I'm just asking what you think should be included in the invoice, but I can also just
So it's
consult.
just not a one sale purchase?
I wouldn't.
Most of it is the sale of the land, but there are some other costs that are administrative.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd put that date in there, May 2019 now.
Yeah, cross that out. I already
Yeah.
said that was earlier, before I knew that they were going to extend the purchase and sale, which really just happened like 2 days ago,
Right, okay.
or yesterday.
And the city solicitor she'll tighten up anything that we, if we don't have the thing.
Yeah, and what do you think should be submitted? Like, should they do a final report? Do you want something like that? I have that here. What must be submitted in a report?
Yeah, I think what you have there, perhaps photo and brief narrative would be good.
Okay, everybody
Yeah.
agrees with that?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Okay, move on to the next.
So if I can, too, Alicia's always offered to help with these, too, and I mean, she's done
Yeah.
1,000 of these.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to get hung up too much on it.
Right,
We give
exactly.
the general idea.
She's very busy, though.
Between her and the city solicitor, they'll tighten up everything up for us, and if they have any questions, they'll get to Amy, she can get back to us. And
I'm wondering though, all right, so the city solicitor will work on drawing this up based on these charts.
Mhm.
And then the next step, what will the next step be?
The next step will be that we'll have a meeting and she'll present them to us, we'll all look them over and then that's it. They're-
Oh, you'll look over what she drew up?
Yeah, what she drew up,
And then
yeah.
you'll sign, or the city, or the mayor will sign, or,
Can we vote on it and then it goes to the council or?
No.
goes to the
No.
mayor?
Okay, we're all done with it. After this, we'll.
Yeah.
We're almost
we'll
done
go.
after 43 Canal Street. We're
Yeah.
almost done.
I think we.
Okay, let's move on to the next one here, Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, they did contact me, just so everybody knows, and they said that they're on track. Can't find my notes about it, but they are, in fact, they said that, they asked me if, you would like a 3D model or whatever of the playground, but that would be an expense. So I said, no, I didn't really think you needed that, so.
No.
For some reason, Rosemary thought that they were gonna finish everything in July.
Because that's what they said.
I don't,
They said by the fall they would be done, both phases. They said they'd be done both phases, but, we'll see. Maybe it'll take.
well, they're not gonna be done with both phases. They're definitely not going, I talked to him and that's not the case.
Yeah, well, whatever, we'll have to give
I
them.
think the planting is gonna come, no, the planting's coming first, and then the other phase with the playground will come second. You can see what phase, see, they're the most specific about the actual work they're doing, as you
Right.
can see here,
Yep,
which is good. That's the problem with the others, is they're not usually that specific about the work, so I don't know how Crystal's gonna put that into a contract.
Okay, so, I don't know, the only concern I had about them was also to make sure they have access to the public for, I think for 5 years at least, they should.
That's what we
Yeah,
have here.
Yeah, so that's, that was the only thing I was concerned about. Other than that, it's, pretty detailed that, I don't know what the, sub-base materials install, I don't know.
I think the
I don't
only
have
thing
to
for
read.
me was that same thing, but I
Yeah.
think, I don't know about 5 years. It's just, if they want to one day put a fence up and just not let anybody use it no more, I don't think they're gonna ever do that.
No,
but-
Well, that's why we're having that restriction in here,
Oh, okay.
the 5-year restriction, which
But then
I'm not really sure how or who's gonna write up. I guess that's something that Crystal will take care of.
Right.
Poor Crystal. She used to do
So then
everything.
after 5 years, they'll be able to put a
That's
fence
part
up.
of our job, okay, and
We
the,
decided might depreciate by then, you know,
yeah. Okay, the deadline for each phase there, it has to be June 30th, because there's no 31st of June. And under deadlines, read the last sentence. I don't know if you wrote that, or if that was something they put in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it has to be June 30th, yeah. Okay. Anything else on that project that anyone wants to add or subtract? Or- yeah.
Do you like the idea of these quarterly reports, you know?
Well, it would be nice to know that if they're on, it doesn't have to be too detailed, as long as we just know that they're on schedule, as long as they're proceeding on schedule and that, staying within budget. And,
Yeah, so in order to do that, they probably have to submit something, and we just have to specify what
Right,
it is.
yeah, just,
Not to be,
just,
because if they're not staying within budget,
Yeah,
it's
they
too
just-
bad, it's on
yeah.
them.
That's on them.
yeah, right,
As
exactly.
far as the quarterly report, this thing's supposed to be
Right.
done within a couple of months, so I don't see any.
Well, they have till June 2020,
Yeah,
so,
they're,
Has to do both phases, right?
got to do both phases, yeah.
And if they're not done by then, they don't get.
so
I mean, if the project's gonna take till 2020, I'd like to know, once in a while that everything's good.
Right, so we have
Nothing
to-
too detailed.
So what do you think, what should be, so do you think a quarterly report is good? And if so, what sort of things should be included? Could it be like, would it be a photo of the work done, or just a narrative, maybe a paragraph?
Yeah, just a paragraph, a narrative, and I don't even know, you don't have to, I don't think, well, I would maybe just do two reports.
Two reports,
December of this year and then the June.
Okay, just 2 reports, does
Yeah.
everybody agree with that?
That way it's not too much of a burden. Okay, anything else on that? Okay, let's move on.
This is a note there, from what I've seen and heard from them, they're plowing right ahead with both
Yeah,
at the
right.
same
Yeah.
time.
Exactly.
And they're planning on coming in substantially under budget and returning a good deal of funds to the CPA, so.
Sounds good to me, so
Yeah.
that's great. They,
That's good.
that they could just send us a thing, we're
So,
done.
yeah, they told me
Yeah.
they're not gonna be planting till the fall, doing the planting part. I think you leave it here.
Okay, the Victory Theater. Basically, the only thing that I had about that was, and we need I want a report from them, only because like every few months, I want to know where they are, if they're ready
That's a good idea.
to start anything. I don't, they don't necessarily have to tell us, what they're doing, but I want to know what's going on with that project.
So
as
do you
to-
think we should have the quarterly reports?
I don't know if we need to do that many, but
So they only get the money, if they have the
if they,
45 million.
that's right. They're not, only if the project starts.
And if-
I mean, they're not gonna do anything unless they have the whole project moving forward. They're not gonna
So
go,
I mean, I mean, you could do the reports, but if they don't have the 45 million, they're not gonna get the.
Right.
What I want them to report to us is that, okay, we got this much money, we only need this much.
Okay.
We got this much money, or we got the money, we're starting. You know, I want to know that.
So you want the quarterly reports on their funding situation?
Yeah, that's
Right.
a different situation.
Just, yeah,
If they don't start by the fall deadline though,
Right, that's the.
we're back to us.
Right.
yeah.
So we might only need one report.
So what is it, so what did we say, that the project must begin by fall 2019?
And be completed by December 2020.
We should just, so what we should ask
I-
them.
I-
Right, what's begin mean?
Put
I
those-
don't think
put those gauge
that's
things,
realistic
Put the
for
money
them.
side.
I mean, I think we should just say
The date.
By-
this date. if
must
you
be
don't have this
completed
much
by
money.
December 2020,
2020, okay.
and who
Yeah.
cares when they start?
I agree, yeah, okay.
I mean, that's what we said, right? Like,
Yes.
we don't want to tie up a bunch of money.
For 15 years.
Yeah, for 50.
We already have our money.
Madam Chairman, by way
Yes.
of, our donation to this, to the bigger project is for the 63 fixtures.
Oh, yeah.
And we may be apprehensive as to see if something unexpected occurs, it's something this massive, will they have enough money to complete it? There's just always unknowns for everything, especially this type of renovation. I'm just wondering if, when they place the order, number one, how long will it take, when they place the order for the 63 fixtures, will that take 3 months to do from the manufacturer? Or will it take a year, or 1 month? My point is, why don't we have them tell us whenever they, because they're going to put in the fixtures, in the last part of the picture is going to be putting the lighting on. After everything's been painted, all the heavy work's been done, the last things you do is put in the fixtures. So we can, if the council so chooses, if the committee so chooses, we could ask them to ask the manufacturer, how long will it take to renovate these fixtures? And upon that, say it's 3 months. Well, then when you're if the goal line is here, we backtrack 3 months, just to make sure nothing goes awry. Okay, place the order, and we'll pay for it, knowing that you've got enough money to meet the goal line, rather than paying for 63 fixtures up front that sit in a warehouse.
Yeah, we aren't gonna do them up front. We're not gonna do them up front.
Okay, do they know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, Kip, you brought up you don't care when they begin. However, I was trying to kind of paraphrase what Mimi had said in her longer, way, and the idea is the idea behind saying they have to start by this time is that it won't encumber money for longer, which has been a concern of the committee. So that was the thinking, I think, behind saying that they should begin work. But I guess we have to specify what we mean by begin, like begin work on the fixtures or begin work on the theater in general, so we know, oh,
Yeah.
something is happening.
They
Because
have
if
to
it's just
begin
sitting
work.
there.
They have to be in work on the theater. They have to have the money
So-
and ready to start.
Mhm.
Here it
Yeah.
says they gotta have the 45 million. Like, it doesn't even matter if they start working, you need to raise the whole 45 million.
Well,
You need
right.
to prove to us that you got the whole 45 million.
Yeah.
They can't
Like,
start the
you can
project
start working
without the
all you
money.
want, you can do what you want in the back, if you haven't proved to us that there's 45 million.
That's true.
you're not
They
gonna get-
can't because they don't have the money to do
No, no,
anything.
I know.
If they don't have the 45 million, they're not gonna start anything because they can't even
Right.
do.
So those
Right.
things are synonymous.
Yeah.
They have,
Yes.
to begin, they have to have the 45 million.
That's correct,
But
because
the
they
question
can't
is,
access
are we
all the
saying that
funds.
they have to have that 45 million by the fall of 2019?
That's what I read it as.
Which I think was what we had said in the recommendations that city council
Originally,
approved.
yeah, that was their recommendation.
So
and
it would be a little bit
I
weird to
think,
go
yeah.
back on it, you know what I'm saying?
I haven't heard anything lately on where they're at. I think before the city solicitor, writes that in there, we need to let her know. That's why I don't want to put that in, because
All right, but.
they might not start till spring, I don't know.
So if it says like fall, if the project must begin by fall 2019, and completed by, so that means if fall of 2019, if they don't start, then they lose all the chance, period.
Right, that was the thinking I think,
But, so
behind it.
the thing is, that would be amazing if they somehow can prove to you that they got 40 million, right? In September, I mean, then maybe they can justify an argument to get an extension for a couple more months, because you got 40 million, right?
Well, right, that's why I wanna know where they're at in their funding. Because when it gets to a certain point, and if they're not making any headway on their funding, we're gonna cut them loose.
So, and the city council approved it based on these conditions.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's true.
So do we want to keep what we had here then?
And there's,
Yeah.
even if they started the project, even if they started the project this fall, that it won't be done by spring. It's gonna take a couple of years for them to do a theater. It's not gonna be done in a few short months, so, I think maybe we should put that, we know whether they're going to be whether we know if they have the funding to start the project by December 2020, and if they don't have the money by then, we're gonna cut them loose.
Start the project or finish the project by December 2020?
If they have the funding, then they're gonna start the project.
And that means the 100% of the funding? Or could
Yes.
it be what Israel was saying, like 40?
Yeah, well, no, they have to start the project, they have to have 100%.
We've watched this thing escalate from 24 million to,
I'm not gonna lie though, it would be amazing that, like, right out the cutoff point, they got 40 million. That would be amazing. I mean, and then it would suck to deny them then, when they're almost there.
Well,
So they can always come back.
Right,
and
that's what I was-
Yeah,
that's something-
exactly.
that's something-
Exactly, they would
right.
have to come back to us with funding, because if they do get to 40, they can't start the project.
No, yeah.
And we're not gonna
Right.
give them the lighting.
Okay, so we're gonna keep it, we must know they have the 100% of the funding by the fall.
Yeah,
Do we have to?
not by the fall, by December 2020. By December
Yeah, we can
2020.
come back to this, I don't know, if we put it in there.
What?
Let's talk later.
So not by the fall.
Not by the fall, by December 2020.
I'm just curious to see what the city council.
Yeah,
agreed
right.
to.
We just changed on the other one too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we added something. That's why I asked if after it's done, they gotta vote on it again.
Yeah.
The grant agreements?
Actually, the city council,
Those again?
they didn't have the information, did they, when they voted on it? They didn't have any of this.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
that
they
was
did.
why
They had that on their desk?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if they did or
If
not.
they didn't, I read it into the record.
Okay,
All right,
Okay.
some of them had it on their desk. I think I had 7 or 8 of them.
okay.
All right, 2 counselors weren't there. Everybody was fine with it.
Okay, but I don't think that, just if they voted on that, they're voting for the project, they're not.
It
voting-
said, as noted above, MIFA's plans call for said construction to begin during the summer or early fall of 2019 and to be completed by December 2020.
I don't think that was realistic to put that in
I
there.
think we just leave it as it is. If
Yeah.
they got the money by 2020, if they got
Okay.
45 million, they can have the 100 grand.
Yeah,
So by
yeah,
December,
I like-
That's
I like
what I
that.
mean.
by December of
Yeah.
2020?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And everybody agrees that they just need to give a report on their funding situation, like a quarterly report,
Give us
just like I have here?
updates, yeah, give us
Under-
updates on their funding, sort of,
Okay.
on their funding, And, yeah, about should the light fixtures be complete before entire theater is complete? By what date? We'd have to see what the architect or whoever is gonna do the design work for the theater, when they would wanna put those light fixtures in, that would be up to them, so. I wouldn't put a date.
Uh-huh.
To answer that question.
And maybe there should be something in there about how, I know there was talk before about if the light fixtures are, well, I guess if they have to have the full funding to do the light fixtures, so there's no issue about the light fixtures sitting somewhere and not being
Right.
installed, so I guess
Yeah.
that doesn't matter.
Right.
And then what kind of final report would you like?
Well, they're gonna get reimbursed from invoices, right?
Yeah. But do you want some kind of photo of the theater or the sconces?
Yeah, a photo and a brief narrative,
I know, right?
just like you did for the other one.
So even though this funding is only going to the sconces, you would still like a report including pictures of the theater?
No, just a picture of the sconce.
Okay.
Just one sconce. And, just a brief narrative, and, yeah,
Not 63?
that's 63. And then, they can just put a little plaque there that says CPA funding did the sconces. They don't have to put like a, because there's gonna be signs all over about who did what, and
Under each guy.
I'm not so sure that's true.
what.
I'm not sure that that would be allowed by the historic standards of the US.
Oh,
And
to
the
put
interior.
to put a little plaque?
I don't know.
Oh, sure.
Well, I think a plaque would be more
Whatever, and if it's
expensive
not
than
allowed, they won't do it.
a
Yes.
temporary sign. Having a
I
plaque?
don't want a temporary sign there, I want a little thin metal thing that
Yeah,
says.
it could be the-
That's a good idea.
Yes, a
Yeah.
thin little metal thing that
big.
says CPA funding did the sconces, or not, maybe better wording.
CPA
but-
funding.
But if they do have a bigger plaque that says, all the contributors.
Yeah, they need to put
Can we just
some.
put our community preservation
do that too.
committee?
So would that be in addition to
In
the
lieu
plaque
of.
or both?
In lieu of.
Okay.
If there's a problem about putting a smaller one
Okay.
next to
I'm
it.
sure there is. I mean, you have
If
to
there
think
is,
about
Okay.
You're messing up the facade
How?
of the historic preservation.
detailed those regulations are. I'm sure it's. And so on for the lanterns.
All right.
This is gonna happen quick.
What's the DPW for the annex?
Okay, we saw a good, I don't know, I hope this same person is
Sorry, I
still
couldn't
gonna
follow
do this
two
project. We saw a good presentation
Oh, yeah.
at the senior center that they actually went to the shop and showed the guy who was gonna do it and, what he's planning on doing, so, it shouldn't be
When did that?
anything that we have to be too concerned about,
What are you talking about?
the lanterns.
Yeah, it's not a DPW that will restore.
Oh, I thought it was too tight.
They're saying the DPW is not.
No, it is
gonna
the
restore.
DPW.
No, they're not gonna be the restore. They're
Okay, yeah, they're not restoring them, but they're going to put it,
They're gonna be
put them in, install
overseeing
them.
it, yeah.
Take them.
Okay, install.
They're gonna
Yeah,
oversee the
change the
project.
word to install.
We'll install 2 restored lanterns.
Mhm. Okay, anything else on
What about
that?
that date? When do they have to have them electrified by?
Did they?
I know
was that
Rosemary
their
was
date?
concerned about that.
Was that their date that they chose, July 31st, 2019? Did they pick that date? Or is that?
I think that's when they said they could have them done, but I think Kip is talking about the second item under conditions, when they'll be electrified.
Oh,
So what date should they be electrified?
oh, okay.
By
well,
what date should they be electrified? I guess
I
by
don't
the
think
time
we
they're
do.
finished.
Yeah, we don't have to put a date in there.
Can't wait.
But that should happen, they should be electrified.
Yes, right. I don't know, do you want to hold them to that July 31st date? I mean, do you want to give them a little bit more time?
It's up to
Do not
you.
hold them to the date.
I would give them a little more
I
time.
don't think.
This is summertime, but the guy goes on.
Right, exactly.
Can you tell everybody, just because I can't?
I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Yes.
I don't think they'll be ready by July 31st.
No.
So say,
Perfect.
They haven't started the work on that.
so
It takes time.
September,
We'll give them more
Big
time.
September 30th?
October.
Yeah.
Yes, September.
October 1st?
Halloween.
Or 31st?
31st, holiday.
October 31st.
October 31st.
Light 'em up.
Yeah. Put pumpkin, put flowers, smiley face
Orange.
on.
I'm having
Orange
trouble,
lights in
can you
there,
just
yeah.
tell me what the final date is?
October 31st,
Okay.
2019.
Make sure they get
Okay.
orange lights.
And what about some sort of restriction on them? Like, so that, you know, like they won't be just,
They must be electrified?
no, I mean a restriction to make sure that, because this is a historic thing, so
No
is
orange
there
lights.
going to be anything in place to prevent them from being demolished, torn off, or?
No, I'd say just leave that alone. I mean, there's a chance that whole building could get demolished in 5 years,
Right.
so,
What, this one right?
no, next door.
Oh, the annex?
Yeah.
Not
They better
according
get
to
ready
the
spend-
building.
They better get ready to spend 5 million then.
That would be too bad.
2,500.
As far as the final report due date, you know, say within 30 days of the finish of the project.
Okay,
And just, like you said, a photo and brief narrative and stuff.
okay.
Needs all kinds of heating and AC upgrades.
Okay.
Bathroom.
Now, the next one is really two different projects
Right.
combined into one, so there might be different conditions, you know, for each one. Because one is the historic 348 Chestnut and the other is the housing preservation.
Okay, now the dates on this are those their dates? Did they
Yeah, I
give you
mean,
those
I,
dates?
that's what this is based on. I looked at their application for what they said.
Okay, because I would check with them before doing this, just to make sure that that is the dates, that they still have those dates,
Well-
that they haven't changed.
Well,
Okay,
let's do, they gave us those dates, let's hold them to it. Now, the 50,000, for 337 Chestnut Street, that's work they could start right away, all right? So we're giving them till 2021, that's plenty of time. If they haven't done it by then, they lose it.
yeah, and the reason they have that date is because, remember, they're applying for more funding, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, this is definitely based on the conversations I've had with them, and
I don't think on 337 they need much more funding. It's more like the 348 one where they need a couple of million. So,
Right, exactly. And the, let's see, so they're not even talking about starting construction until 2021. Construction must begin by January 31st, 2021, after anticipated funds
Right.
have been matched, so yeah, we'll just, yeah, we'll have to go with their wording.
anything about,
We're putting together drafts that these grant recipients are gonna review, and they may say, I have a problem with this date, I need to change it for this reason, and they'll come back. Or they're gonna look and say, this is fine with me, and they're gonna sign the things.
yeah, I'm picturing that Crystal will take this information, put it into a contract, you know, there'll be a meeting with the recipient and, you know, their lawyer or whoever, and then,
But they may have some
yeah.
proposed changes.
Anything, what about reports due for these, deadlines for quarterly reports, or what should be submitted?
Well, they, I don't know if you would call it a report, but they should let us know how they're doing, you know, if think they've got a pretty good chance on getting this funding, the matched funding, and,
So
I mean,
maybe
I would-
like with the other one, you want sort of a funding update? or-
you're right, yeah. I'd say within 6 months, they should give us a funding update just to let us know that,
how about a January 31st, 2020 funding update?
okay.
And that'll put it 1 year. That's about it.
Well, and that allows us to understand whether they're really gonna use this money or not, or it's
That's
gonna
right.
come back. Because we're gonna be in the next funding cycle, and we'll know
That's
whether
right.
any of these monies are getting kicked back to us.
Yeah, yeah.
To be
Right.
allocated to somebody else, so I think we should ask for an update.
Yeah.
The grant they're applying for, do we know if it's like a federal or?
Yeah.
Both, it's federal
Yeah,
and
it's
state.
There's a date already on the grant.
There were two, I think, right? There was one that was,
There should be a deadline, so they know anyways on the grant.
Did everybody look at the conditions column though, as well? The longer column? The second one?
I mean, I'm sure that's all boilerplate language on an agreement.
Where did you get that wording?
I think a lot of it might have come from Mimi, you know, or sort of adapted for this from what she helped with for the other ones.
This seems to be.
Oops.
Project.
Yeah, they might
I have
not,
something on here that doesn't belong here.
The park stuff?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know.
and they might not like that August 31st date, 2019, the last paragraph in the conditions in the first page of it. You know, that they might not be ready to do that by August 30th, because then it says the grant will terminate automatically. So they might have a problem with that date, but you can leave it in, and if they don't want to change it,
It's right here.
I wonder if that really belongs for a different one, because
Yeah,
then we
that-
go on to
That
tab.
sounds like some boilerplate.
something else, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I was wondering, it didn't make sense to
That
me.
doesn't seem right.
Okay,
It was like,
So
we'll
just cross that out.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that whole part from starting where? In the event from that?
I guess so, yeah.
I think we got some of the conditions over here.
All right.
Well, and even the one above that, because some of it's not historic, right? Agrees to execute the proposed project. That's where there's like the commingling of the two projects.
Well, one's historic.
You just-
The third paragraph?
DOC agrees to execute proposed project in its entirety in compliance with the Secretary of the Interior's standard for rehabilitation.
Okay, so that applies to
One of those
348
housing,
Chestnut
one is
only.
Yeah, so like the front facade of one of the buildings is just the historic rehabilitation. And then the other one is the housing preservation. Like,
I'm not sure which one, Secretary of the Interior for rehabilitation, is that housing or is that historic?
That's for the historic 348 Chestnut.
Okay, so then that, just make that project.
And again, does anyone care how long the sign is up?
No.
Couple, 2 years, I don't know, that's
Don't
a
put a date on
suggestion.
it.
Good, just
Just put it up.
Until it falls apart.
Fades out.
Well, the one reason
don't
why
make it
you
out
might
of
want
brass.
it, it depends on who pays for it, because one cost-saving thing would be to, like, if it came out of the funds for admin, that it could be, well, I guess it can't be.
If we pay for it, it should be up there forever.
Unless it's a generic thing that says this was funded by CPA or whatever, it could be reused for future projects. But I guess we said that it will come out of their funds.
They should pay for it.
And we're just gonna pay for the, we're just funding the outside of the building, so, and they're gonna be doing other stuff in there, so we don't wanna take credit for the whole project.
Oh, so there's not gonna be any sign for the interior, I guess.
On the sign, I could say facade.
Also, what should the sign say? Do you guys
The
have thoughts?
facade has been rehabilitated by funds from
Restored,
CPA.
yeah, or something like that, yeah.
So nothing to mention the gut stuff in the
No, we're
interior?
not.
I think gravity.
You can't take credit for what we're not doing.
Yeah.
But we are funding,
You talking about the housing aspect?
is
We have
funding
14 minutes
337
till 8
Chestnut.
o'clock.
So do you want a sign for that one too?
Inside
Yeah.
the building when you walk in.
I thought they
People
were-
walk in the building.
I thought they
inside the
were
building.
both exterior work.
No,
No, one is
337
inside.
Chestnut, it's right on here, it says housing preservation. Remember
Yeah,
that
one.
that's not a historic
That's the
building?
one.
But it says exterior siding.
Oh, you're right, sorry, I'm getting
Yeah.
confused with 123 Pine Street.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So they're both exterior work,
Okay,
so they would just
sorry.
have to say that the exterior work's
Got
been
it, good.
funded by the,
Yeah.
okay,
You know, it's
we
good.
gotta get going.
Oh, I know, well, you have me for 8, right?
No, I just said that first.
Oh.
I I mean, you know, I want to be done by 8 o'clock,
You're not
yes.
supposed to tell us that. That's, now we know next time when you tell us you'll be
Yeah.
out of here by 8 o'clock.
Well, somebody said they had to be out of here by 8, so I said, yeah, me too. That's all. Okay,
I appreciate the support.
Okay, so this should be fresher in our minds, because
yes,
this
the
one was just
123 Ninth
approved
Street, yeah.
by city council.
Yeah, so,
What are all these dates? Those are the reports?
Quarters.
Ooh.
Well, those are, you know, it's a question mark whether. it should be-
yeah, okay. I don't think they should have to give us that many quarterly reports, but, you know,
You know,
just,
it's a burden for them and it's a burden for
yeah.
us.
it's
Okay.
Just get your funding updates, I just want to know.
Okay,
you know,
so how many should they do? Should we do like what you said with the other one? So skip September, just do December
Yeah,
and maybe June?
December and June are good, end of the fiscal year, and right before we start awarding.
So December, June, and then
Right,
December.
right, before we start awarding, so you could just talk about
And then a final report.
last year's project.
Yeah.
Final report after March
Well,
31st.
we're extra funds we might have available.
So December and June of 2021, and then December and June of 2022? that
I
yes,
would do every December and June.
Okay.
yeah. Skip the September and the March. Skip September 2021, March 2021, September 2022, and March 2021.
Okay, just tell me the ones we're doing. December, June,
December, June,
and December, June. Okay.
Well, we're gonna get a final report. Would
Yes.
March 31st be the final report?
No, June 30th, 2022, the last one.
Oh, so that's gonna cover March
Oh,
31st?
see, you don't have the updated one, that the final report is June 30th.
No, I don't have that.
He doesn't have that, so just write that in there, June 30th, it's gonna be the final report.
One of the things we messed up. That's all right.
Okay, I mean, you know, the signs, the same thing, you know, they can put up signs, or this one's gonna be, we are paying for some of the interior, but we're not the only ones that are gonna be paying, but we should have something up there that says,
Mhm. And in the final report, do you agree with what I have here? A photo of the completed designs and construction work, the brief narrative of what was accomplished?
sure. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
I imagine Crystal might say she wants some more specific details, but we'll see.
Is that for the quarterly report or
Well, we're not doing a quarterly report,
Right,
we're
for
just
the
doing it
biennial reports?
like twice a year, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's for the, I don't know what they'll need to submit for each of the December and June reports. Just
Progress report,
a sort of narrative.
where you at, what you've done, what you're gonna be doing in the future. Will you be done?
So no photos, just some
I mean,
written.
if you wanna do photos.
Well, yeah, I'd like a picture of the outside of
I
the
mean, that
building.
would be good.
But I'm talking about the earlier reports.
Oh, no,
You-
no, no.
Yeah.
I guess the reason I'm pointing this out is because the contract is sort of this one opportunity you have where you either get it or you miss that boat, you know, where you can actually specify, this is what we want. Because if it's not specified, they're like, well, you didn't tell us we needed this. It's right here, it doesn't have anything. So you know what I mean? That's the reason to think about that.
Well, we're gonna have to, you know, take this as we go along. This is our first time, and if we make mistakes, we'll know next time we need to include that.
That's true.
You know,
They
we're,
only get money after they submit invoices,
Yes.
right? I mean, and
Technically,
for projects that
at the
are
end of the-
moving
like,
forward.
Yeah.
It's like,
If they submit their
Same
invoice
thing.
and their thing is not what our contract looks like, right? I mean, they won't get paid.
No, I know. I'm talking more about, though, just making sure that they really,
We could just be very
That they
vague
really-
and say project status
Right.
update.
right,
That's
It's like,
it.
what
Let
are you
them
guys
do it.
doing? They're like, oh, they'll be happy to talk to us.
Yeah.
right.
okay, the other question with this is some sort of, again, a term restriction of some kind maybe on the historic portion of it. And as I said to you all before, after this fiscal year, there will be a new influx of money in admin, so it's possible that with all these historic projects, it might make sense to hire somebody who would just be, you know, I could check in with as a historic restriction consultant, I guess they're called, and if you want to have some type of term restriction on this investment by the city.
What do you mean a term restriction?
Well,
They're getting,
we don't want them to paint the brick after we spend money restoring.
Oh, you
the
mean like
facade.
a time,
Like
a time.
Yeah,
See,
period of
okay.
time where they can't just like, trash the work that they've done with city money.
Well, what have other communities done? Have they?
They have what I told you, a term restriction. and
Yeah,
they
but
hire
what was their time frame?
I guess it really depends. Some of them might do 30 years. I mean, it's, because you can do the perpetual one, but that's very onerous and that's, very complicated. And so this wouldn't be as onerous as that. It wouldn't be perpetual, but could be kind of a simpler version of what, so I think I've sent that to Crystal, to the solicitor, so they could like look at that and create a restriction.
Could we wait till we hire that person and ask them what they think, how many years?
Well,
Or
the
is
only
that too
thing is,
late?
do you want this contract and all these contracts signed before the end of June?
Yeah, I'd like to, yeah.
And that's the problem, we can't hire, but it still could be in the contract if they have to
Yeah, whatever that,
have this restriction, but you'd have to decide.
It's a vacant block,
No, I know this
so
is
we
a
don't start
building.
painting it
right.
after 5 years.
But wouldn't it be,
Vinyl siding on it.
but wouldn't it be brand new for like 10 years, 15 years?
And we're 10% of this total project. This
Yeah.
is very federally financed, and
They're gonna be on
specific. They're gonna be all over it.
Yeah, they'll be on the
there's
case.
piggyback on their restrictions
Yeah.
to a
Yeah.
great deal.
yes.
Most of these projects. They're
So you
getting-
don't think we need to have a separate thing? You think that they're gonna
I
already
think we don't
have to adhere to?
concern ourselves with
Yeah. At this,
great detail about it. I think a general statement.
I mean, after 15
they'll,
years.
They're in
they
compliance
will
with the
have to
federal.
have, yeah, they will have to have a historic person in their project, and we can say whatever their historic person says, that's, I don't know what's the right word again.
Compliance with
Yeah,
the
in
federal-
compliance with whatever
federal grants
their
that they're
historic
stating.
person says, yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking at it as if you have a new building, right? I mean, after 15 years, it still looks new most of the time, right?
Yeah,
But
that's
it's-
the hope, yeah.
It's not a new building.
Well, you're
It will be
refurbishing
when
an
it's
old
finished,
building
it'll
to a new
be, it'll be
building.
rehabbed. It'll
So,
be
like, I mean-
Well, it'll be rehabbed according to the
Yeah.
Secretary of the Interior standards for historic
Right.
rehabilitation.
For however long that's
So,
gonna
yeah.
look nice for it, right?
Maybe they have.
No, but
They'll
the
have
problem, the
recommendations.
reason Israel this is
Yeah.
done is that sometimes
Yeah.
people, like, if you
Would
change
paint
this
over it.
ownership or whatever, somebody will like say, I don't want to do this anymore, this is too costly, I'm gonna just,
No, I
remove
understand,
the
I
work
understand,
that's
I
done.
clearly understand what the conditions are, but I just don't think it makes any sense to put a condition, if it's a brand new building, after, who's gonna repaint it?
It's not a brand new building, it's
Oh,
an old building.
That's, okay,
Rehab.
that's schematic, I mean,
There's a lot of money involved here. I mean, the feds and the state are gonna be on this, and should anybody alter it, or attempt to sell it or resell it,
That thing.
there are gonna be conditions and penalties
Yeah.
incurred on who's ever buying it or selling it if they
Right.
violate the public money that's been put into it for a specific purpose. I don't think, I think let the feds and the state put those terms and conditions that I'm sure there's a lot of them on it, and let them be the interpreters of it.
so I mean, if you wanna put.
In 15 years, are we gonna sue them?
But that's what I'm saying, like, if you wanna put in 5 years, don't paint the building, I guess. But it doesn't make any sense for you to paint the building in 5 years if you just did it. But,
Well,
I
I'm just
mean,
telling you that most communities, Preservation Act committees do have some sort of restrictions on any historic work, and that's what Stuart Saginaw has, urged us to do. So-
Well, and maybe those projects didn't have
Other federal.
federal
Right, so
and
maybe
state
it's not
funding
okay,
involved.
so maybe that doesn't need it, but maybe some of the other historic projects do.
Yeah, of
So,
course. If this was Paul Revere's house or George Washington's house, it would be one thing, but it's an 1880s.
We could have allocated all that money under housing
Yeah.
and avoided all this conversation. I don't know why we split it into two pots.
at that point in time, that's what we had.
We
The way the
couldn't.
funding
More
was.
money was in housing, actually.
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
we
most of
decided.
it is going to housing.
Right, so it could have all been categorized as housing.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely could have, if we're
Well,
gonna
let's not-
renovate a building and make it
Yeah.
affordable.
We
housing.
can't
Let's not
change
go
the
back
law.
over that.
I know, but I'm just saying, it could have
Yeah.
all been there and we could have,
But I think maybe we want to have a statement in there that says that it must be in compliance. Our contract with them means they have to comply with the federal grant standards, so that if they do violate it, and the feds come after them, we can also say, we want our 130 grand back. If we don't have that, any terms in our agreement
Our
that says that they have
30,000.
to comply with those. But I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel about what those terms should be.
Right.
When there's other federal and state historic tax
Okay.
credits being applied.
Okay, so in that case, we would want the 30,000 back. That's the part that goes to the historic.
Right.
Right, and I'm sure with the housing, they have to keep it as affordable housing for X number of years too. So if they were to violate that, we also want an ability to go back and get that 120 grand. I don't know that you're gonna have any success at getting it, but at least if there's a clause in the contract that says you have the right to, got a claim.
Before I leave, can we move out of order for a second to figure out the next meeting date?
What's that? I didn't-
Next meeting date?
Yes.
We still have one more project to do. Good
Yeah, I
question.
know.
If you have to leave, is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. Okay. Next meeting date, okay.
What do we have for an agenda for our next?
Oh,
It'll
we still
be-
haven't gone through the last,
Yeah,
Well, we'll get through that.
we're gonna do it, but she wants to know next
Okay.
meeting date. Right. I got mine.
oh, I wrote down some possible dates here.
Well, what do we have to do?
Just the final, approve the final, well, minutes, any minutes, and maybe, I don't know, do we need a financial update at that point in time, or?
Well,
is
I mean, you
everything-
might be looking over the contracts.
But I
And
think-
that
I mean,
definitely
I remember
that.
specifically asking Crystal if she wanted us to do that. Said, are you gonna want us to review the agreement? She was like, oh, God, no.
Oh,
Okay.
So,
I don't know.
and I don't,
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know,
think,
whatever.
I think that's well beyond our.
although
scope.
she may look at what I sent her and say, oh, this, I
She has
need
some
more
questions.
specific information.
Yeah, we'll let you work with her on that. I mean, we don't need, do you know what we talked about?
No, what I'm
here?
saying is, I'm taking what you're saying, but she may say, well, this isn't clear, or she needs more information from the committee that I can't answer. So I just think we should allow for the fact that there
Oh, yeah.
might be some back and forth.
Well, we can set up one,
Some dates out
one more
there.
meeting for this,
So
for
in
this
other words,
year.
it should be a warrant.
Oh, plus we'll have to do the conditions for 43 Canal Street,
Right.
if it's approved.
And not only that, we don't know how long it's gonna take Crystal to
Keep it
do
Thursday.
this work,
I
so
know.
we better wait and see.
That's,
Did you say all this has to be done by the end of June?
I'd like it to be.
I don't know
yeah.
how that will happen,
I'd like it to be, yes.
but, yeah.
June 13th.
Because we're starting a new year, June,
13th, Mike.
July 1st.
Yeah, one of the crazy things is I might be putting in this requisition order for
We got budget hearings
$156,500 for the
Oh,
Gloutak
that's
sale
the second
before
week,
their
too.
contract. How does that work? It's like the cart.
No, it's
I
not
don't,
the first
I
one.
don't think
Before
that'll
the
happen.
You can't have them.
Can't happen? No, I wouldn't think so.
No.
Well, that's sort of,
Yeah, I don't know.
The
how else we're
trajectory
gonna
That's
do
one of
it.
the reasons I was like, we should push that date back.
well,
Things like that
then
happen.
I guess I just have to like tell Crystal, hey, we
Yeah,
really
do
need this
that.
Gotta make a
contract.
priority of that
Yeah.
one.
Do that one first.
Crystal, need contract ASAP. So that should happen before, okay.
Yeah, because that's in the one.
All the others are not time sensitive, not that I know of any.
Right. I mean, and everybody else is paying and getting reimbursed,
Right,
right? So
exactly.
I
So-
don't think anybody's.
I'm gonna be
Cemetery
away,
might be the only other one.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna be out of the country, June 1st to
Ooh,
June
sounds like
10th.
you when I grew up.
So,
Won't do that.
I'll probably be a little jet lagged. But I mean, I had down as a possibility Thursday, June 13th, or maybe even better, Monday, June 17th.
I can't do Monday.
maybe Thursday, the 13th.
Thursdays are good.
What'd you say?
I can do the Thursday day.
Thursday, the 13th?
Where are you going?
Wait, are you packing up? Because we haven't gone through all the conditions.
I have to leave.
Okay,
I know
so,
somebody had to leave.
Yeah, she was the one.
So I guess we're not gonna go through all the conditions
Why
because the
not?
minutes taker is gone.
I'll comment.
well, she'll finish.
Oh, okay. All
I
right,
just wanted to
thanks,
make sure the
Meg.
meeting was set.
Bye, have a
Okay,
good night,
thank
thank you.
Okay, so we're going the 13th at 6 o'clock, okay. Well, I'll have to, is that a Thursday? Okay, 6 o'clock.
I hope we can get a quorum because I know sometimes Mimi has meetings then. You said Israel, you can't do Thursday or?
I can't do Mondays.
Oh, so you can, so who can do it on Thursday? I'm curious to know.
Me.
Can you do it on Thursday, Israel? Yes, and Mike can, and Mike Falsetti, can you do it on Thursday?
I may have another meeting, but I'm not quite sure.
What about you, Kim?
It looks right now okay.
Okay, so we have 5 people. Okay, so that's probably good.
Okay, all right, let's, we're all set for that, so.
We'll put it in here just in case we actually do get done.
That's what I put it for.
All right, let's do the last project.
We have stained glass in Smith Ferry.
Oh, two more, okay. Cemetery, that's pretty straightforward. I mean, they thought they could finish that this summer, right?
Yeah, I think they're already getting volunteers.
Yeah, okay.
As
So,
is.
yeah. So just, I don't know if they have to do a photo of each, maybe they can do big photo of all the headstones and a brief narrative,
Or maybe a sample photo.
or a
of
sample
one of them,
photo.
One or
of
two.
one. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Just a report that says they did them.
And as far as the sign, just, you know, have them put up a sign and until it falls down. You don't have to.
It's graveyard bug deep.
Or, you know, you never know out
They
there.
just put up a sign.
Yeah,
right?
just
They
that they
don't put
put-
up for how long.
Exactly.
I mean, no one's gonna wanna go take it down. Oh, it's
City will
91
do it,
days,
take
we
it
only have to
down.
put it up for 90, go take that sign down.
Hopefully not,
Not
right?
if they ever wanna get funding again.
Yeah. Report due upon completion of the project.
That's for Smith's
I would say like,
Yes,
right,
it's very.
you know, within 60 days or 90 days or some reasonable period of time after they've
Okay.
done
and
the
then-
work.
Oh, okay, I was gonna
Because,
put.
I mean,
Yeah, give it-
they're not gonna get paid until they, or do they not get paid till they submit a report?
Oh, they'll get paid.
Okay.
Yeah. 30.
I was gonna say report due when the project is complete, but you wanna have it due for a period after August 31st?
Because if they finish, they just put it together.
Yeah,
Okay,
Give it
so
30 days or 60 days or
Okay.
45 days or.
30
so
days
maybe
is good.
September 31st.
Yeah,
So does that hold true for the others?
yes.
Okay.
And I wouldn't, I don't know if I'd put a date because they might run over their August 31st. So as long as it's within 30 days upon completion of the project, as far as the report due.
You wouldn't put a date for which?
Should be
Report
completed
due.
by.
Oh, I see.
20, yeah.
Yeah, just within 30 days upon completion of the project, no date yet.
But we're saying that it should be complete. by
Well, it
August.
should be complete, yeah, it should. That's the hope. But they might run over that, and so we'll give them a little bit of leave.
Okay.
Okay, now the stained glass. When are they gonna know about the matching? Are they gonna wait for the matching to start the project, or they have enough to do one window now with our money? So are they gonna start doing it?
All I know is what I have here, that it should be completed by July 31st, 2020.
Okay,
They were supposed to have that match by end of May, right?
I know, it's, yeah, sometime in the spring. I hope that they were gonna find out,
I
but
can ask them,
That'd be good to know.
yes.
do they have the match for the funds?
Or are they close to
I hope
getting
they
it?
got it.
I hope so, too.
Those are the windows that are on the clear right
Three
now.
empty
Yeah.
ones, one
That's
It's plywood.
real dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, did they change something up there?
They pulled them down because they were falling apart.
Oh.
So there's 3 missing.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, no, that's the way it's been.
It's been like that for 2
Oh,
years.
I thought there was a change. Okay.
So do we want reports from them?
I would
Who's in
say
charge?
our DPW, who's gonna do
I want
that.
reports. I'm on the Parks and Rec commission. You want reports? I just play. Nah,
I don't know, not necessarily quarterly maybe, but definitely by December 31st, 2019.
Yeah. They're probably gonna come with a phase 3 too, I would assume.
And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so maybe that and then the final report in July?
Sure.
Although, again, you said they could have 30 days after the completion.
For the report, yes,
for
30 days.
The final report.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that has to be true for every project, because every project will be different, but you could put, I guess you could do that.
As soon as they're done, they're coming right back for more, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there more of them up there? I think
There's like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's more stained glass
Every one
windows.
of them's gotta get done.
How many of them are there?
There's
There's
10.
nine, yeah.
There's
There's
10
like
big ones.
13. There's actually more than in the ballroom. There's
Yeah,
some
there's
over
10
back
big
here,
ones,
there's some.
5 on each side, and then there's some small
That's
ones.
what I think.
Three in the
That's what I
front.
think. Some monitoring. That's
Yes,
what we
2 are
need to be
done.
monitoring.
2 are done.
2 are
Look,
done.
And this is for 3 more.
Yeah.
This is for
So
3
this
more.
is kind of the
So,
half
you know,
of the
one
big
thing
ones.
I'm
Yeah.
concerned about is that, how we realize that Crystal needs to do the contract for Gloutak immediately, and yet we only have, it seems like, you know, their P&S is for June 7th, and I'm gonna be leaving June 1st. How is she gonna do the contract before I leave so I can put in for the check?
I
You
don't
know,
know.
that's the
We'll-
issue.
We'll have to worry about it when the time, hopefully it'll.
But the time is now.
Well, I don't know what you mean, the time is now.
Well,
There's not ready.
there's only one more week that I'm here to put in this check. So I just
Okay.
wonder if Crystal will be able to write up this contract. Well, she knows that it's going on though.
Yeah, I was just gonna
She's
say,
been
she's
included.
involved in that.
So
yeah.
maybe I can just say, okay, I'll just send this over to her right away
Mhm.
Yeah.
and say, you know,
Yeah.
we want to, you know, put in this
And maybe,
requisition order.
maybe she'll tell us we don't need to do a contract before we give them the check in this particular case, because it's such a different
Right, that's what I'm
project.
wondering. Maybe
It's
we
such a
don't,
different project,
I
you
mean,
know?
but you all did say you did want the contract first.
Well, if we could, you know, if we can do it, fine. If we can't, this project is a different project. It's
Mhm.
not.
Does everybody hear that?
Okay. Is that it? All right.
Is that it?
We did, got through it.
You gave us an update on the Gloutak Woods, so we know what's what, right? That was item 5.
Yeah, I did that when we were talking about the first contract.
Okay. Is there any other business?
Motion to adjourn?
There's no other business because we already set the next meeting date. Okay. Second, all in favor, no discussion. All right, thank you, everybody.
All right, good job.